So welcome to the DAR Museum Online. I am Sarah Kirspel, the coordinator of museum engagement and outreach for the DAR Museum. So today we're going to hear from me, Sarah Kirspel, coordinator of engagement and outreach for the DAR Museum. So as part of our monthly lecture series, we take turns not only having outside speakers, but museum staff speakers as well. And my colleague asked me to talk about the Correspondent Docent program for people who may not be familiar with it, since I am intimately acquainted with it on a daily basis. And so this Tuesday talk, it's presented the second Tuesday of each month, and the highlights different topics related to the collections, but it can also be about our programs that we have as well. So if you're interested in a list of our upcoming lectures or programs, you can go ahead and visit www.dar.org/museum, or follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Events up there as well. Yeah. Family programs, Girl Scout programs, symposia, exhibition tours, evening events, and so just check it out. For example, coming up this week on Saturday, we have two programs. One will be a sample bookmark activity, so you can do the exhibition hands-on activity. We'll have a guided for you so that our educators can help you learn how to do that. And then we also are going to host an unfinished objects craft circle. And unfinished objects is abbreviated UFOs. So we're going to have a UFO craft circle at the museum. And this is for those crafters who just have not finished that project. So you bring it and you finish it with other people. It's a really fun, unique environment where you can collaborate with fellow crafters. And then if you're around in town on June 1st, we have our Kirspel sound bath, which is making use of the Oberyn Gallery and the beautiful acoustics that are in there as well. Our next virtual program is going to be the hybrid Tuesday talk in June, on June 11th. It's called Compelled to Pad and Wad, Spinal Curvatures in Dress in the 18th Century, presented by Emily Bach, textile conservation technician at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And featured in this presentation is a dress that is currently on exhibition in Sonnen America, Making Union Memory. She did a lot of research for her project on that dress, which is really cool. So without further ado, I guess I'll go ahead and introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, I am Sarah Kirspel, coordinator of engagement and outreach, and as I like to introduce myself, the CEO for the DAR Museum. I've been here since May of 2022, so this marks almost exactly my 2-year anniversary. And in that time, I have learned so much and have worked with so many people across the country. I am originally from Delaware, and I earned my bachelor's degree in history from York College of Pennsylvania. A little known fact is that York was the capital of the United States briefly, and it was where the Articles of Confederation were drafted in 1777. After college, I attended Duquesne University for my Master's of Arts in Public History. That's the less formal name for the Museum, Archives, and Historical Editing Studies program. When I graduated, I immediately joined AmeriCorps and worked as a historical educator at the Delaware State Park's Indian River Life Saving Station, where I taught summer beachgoers about the brave men of the United States Life Saving Service and surf fishing classes, sometimes in the same day. I stayed with Delaware State Parks after my stint with AmeriCorps was completed, and I worked at First State Heritage Park and started there as a historical educator and became the interpretive program manager and then the superintendent. Now, we were located in the very spot where Delaware became the first state ratifying the Constitution before any other state, and we shared that as part of our mission. Then I got married and moved to Washington, D.C., got a job as the director of programs and special events at the Historic Congressional Cemetery, and became the vice president of operations before coming here to the DAR Museum. So that's a little bit about me, but today I want to talk to you about the Correspondent Docent program. I called this program From Museum Walls to Your Halls and Other Venues, because this program really enables people from across the globe to learn about and appreciate the incredible collection that we have at the DAR Museum. So speaking of the DAR Museum, I want to give you a little bit of background on the museum. We have recently worked to create a new mission statement that we think really reflects our collecting and what is at the heart of the DAR Museum. So the mission statement says, the DAR Museum, located in the NSDAR headquarters, which stands for the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution, collects preserves, and interprets objects used and created in American homes. Using the lens of varied interpretations of home, we inspire conversations about diverse American experience, encouraging people to discover common ground. And the way that we attain that mission is through some mission attainment statements. We have 4 pillars, 3 of which are based on the DAR's own pillars, and then we added a 4th just to cover outreach. So the first one is preservation. Preservation is a huge part of what we do. So since its inception in 1890, the DAR Museum has been committed to providing the highest level of stewardship through curator-directed collecting, object conservation, and historic building preservation. Our second pillar is education. And in interpreting the experience of the American home, the DAR Museum uses its collections and historic architecture for exhibitions, programs, tours, and scholarship. Our third pillar, patriotism. Through its preservation of the American home, the DAR Museum endeavors to tell the many stories of individual pursuits of happiness and collective efforts to overcome challenges and strengthen their democracy. And our fourth pillar, the one that probably is most closely dear to my heart, is outreach. So to further our mission, the DAR Museum reaches beyond its doors through digital initiatives and personal engagement to cultivate conversations discovering common ground. And this last pillar, outreach, is what I would like to cover today. So I'm going to tell you about a unique outreach program at the DAR, which increases the visibility of the DAR Museum globally. So travel back in time with me. The year was 1981. The hair was big, and we were celebrating the bicentennial of the Battle of Yorktown, the last battle of the Revolutionary War in 1781. Now, these photos I have are all courtesy of our DAR archives, and I have them cited here if you wish to look at them. They really don't have anything to do with the Correspondent Docent program itself. I just thought they were really fun, and I really loved being able to share them. But this is the bicentennial of Yorktown, and then some other receptions that they had in 1981. But that mustache, I think, really sets it off. So in 1981, the internet was just being created by universities. The people interested in learning correspondence courses offered regular lessons mailed to the students wishing to become proficient. They would read the materials, do the exercises, and take the tests, all from their home, and return them in the mail for grading. This could be typing, this could be a particular subject or topic, but these correspondent courses were very common and were pretty reminiscent of what we would call asynchronous learning today, but all without the beauty of the internet. So some enterprising women at the DAR decided to launch the Correspondent Docent program following this model. This program was suggested by Mrs. Guy Rucker of Virginia as a solution for sharing the vast treasure of artifacts acquired by the museum. It was recognized that many people would never have the opportunity to visit our nation's capital and see the museum in person. Thus, the Correspondent Docent program was born. And the Correspondent Docent program officially launched in March of 1982 with an announcement in that month's issue of the DAR magazine. And here is that title page. The original program was called The Best Kept Secret in Washington, Shared, and consisted of text and slides prepared through joint efforts of the Curator General, the Museum Director, and the staff, and the DAR Museum Docent Committee. So everyone worked together to create this program that could be shared across the country. The goal was to have correspondent docents in each state and any country that had a DAR chapter. According to the article, it was, quote, expanding the knowledge and awareness of our museum and using that to encourage visitation to the museum, staterooms, and gallery exhibitions. And so through this, any member of the DAR is eligible to become a correspondent docent. However, they must apply to join the program. And this was not an easy program to join. So originally they had to submit a letter of entry along with a letter of approval from their state regent and a check for $10. Now the $10 covered the material costs for the actual correspondence that would be included in this correspondent docent program. Once accepted, the CD was then required to, quote, complete a comprehensive written home study program, end quote, covering all of the state period rooms and general museum information. The program course material contained the study materials and open book tests to show the understanding of the material. And then the tests were prepared, scored, and evaluated by a committee. After the written materials were completed, a candidate then gave a presentation to their check. And so, doing so, they could prove that they really had mastered that content. And then once they had mastered it, upon, quote, satisfactory completion of the training program through the written material and the presentation, the applicant was then qualified to commence in-field presentations of the slide program. End quote. Now this is not an actual photo of someone receiving their correspondent docent, but I was really excited about it. It was actually from a naturalization ceremony that they had in the 1980s. And I just thought this picture was really, really exciting. So to earn their correspondent docent pin, which is an internal recognition within the National Society, members were required to present 60 hours of programs. By 1889, the formal committee was formed to oversee the management of the program because it was so successful. So this is a picture of the pin that correspondent docent would earn. And then once they received that pin, you see the little circles there, that's a place where they could put additional, they're called dangles. So if they did 25 or 50 additional hours, they could have additional hardware on their pin. So the original program was given using slides. So who remembers those? Here are examples of such, and it's really what modern PowerPoint is based on. So Robin remembers these. So correspondent docents were able to purchase the slides for approximately $35 to $50 a set. Now, to give you an idea of in 1980, the minimum wage was $3.10 an hour. So this is not an insignificant investment. And then a copy for each state was also procured, and they would be able to borrow those from each state. And each slide would have a photograph of a museum object, and then the correspondent docent would work from their script and be able to share those images. The images were the best quality that could be taken at the time, but as we scanned these slides into our modern computers, the resolution on these is not amazing. So I have real appreciation for the people who attended these programs and what they were able to see, and now we're able to do it even so much better. So from there, being able to share these, the programs have grown exponentially. Sometimes our correspondent docents travel for hours to give presentations all over their respective states. Believe it or not, some states are larger than others. And especially out west, some states only have 1 or 2 CDs, CDs standing for correspondent docents, to cover the entire state. So our CDs present to schools, chapters, community organizations, and we no longer use slide projectors and have migrated all of the programs over to PowerPoint and projectors. Some programs have come and gone, some programs have been retired, and others are being revamped. Well, people continue to show interest in the vast array of treasures that are found in the DAR Museum collection. Currently, we have 289 CDs all over the world, and 16 programs are available for presentation. I have to give a little shout out to Beverly Gentry. She is the vice chair for the Correspondent Docent Committee, and she is featured in this photo. She took this picture to do promo, just to show how a setup would look, even though this is just in her kitchen. So I appreciate that, Beverly. Thank you very much. And so here is a complete list of all of the programs currently being presented by our correspondent docents. Once a candidate applies and completes the orientation, they then become CD in training until they've presented 10 programs, which is the current requirement. After that, they become a full-fledged correspondent docent and must present at least 1 program per calendar year to remain active. So let me tell you a little bit about each program that we currently offer. Oh, and I have some breaking news. As of May 3rd, we created a brand new program to offer, which was created by a member of the Correspondent Docent Program Development Committee. And it was just released. It is called The History of the DAR Museum. Now, this program was much in demand. We were always getting requests for a program about the history of the museum itself, but we only had a program about the period rooms. So Alana Schuma, Texas daughter, put together all of this information and created a brand new program that I'm excited to tell you about as well. Now, but our first program, I do things alphabetically, so we're going to talk alphabetically, is American Women's Fashion from 1760 to 1925. And this is based on a past, almost all of our programs are based on past exhibitions. But this one traces the history of American women's fashions through highlights from the DAR Museum's collection. So as you can see, it spans the decades and covers a whole lot of things. Next is An Agreeable Tyrant. And in this program, you observe men's and women's clothing in shaping America's national identity, which was based on the DAR Museum's 2017 exhibit, An Agreeable Tyrant, Fashion After the Revolution. Next, we have By, For, and Of the People, which takes a look at the DAR Museum's folk art collection based on the 2011 exhibit By, For, and Of the People, Folk Art in Americana, the DAR Museum. Dining in Early America analyzes cooking and dining traditions in the American home and in the 18th and early 19th century. This one's a lot of fun, focused on food. Fashioning a New Woman takes a look at the women's fashions at the turn of the 20th century as women took on new roles and activities based on the 2012 exhibit, Fashioning a New Woman. So it's a combination of fashion plates and actual photos of costumes and dresses in the collection. For the Fun of It is all about the American childhood from the 18th through the early 20th century, and examined through toys in the New Hampshire Children's Attic, which is one of our state period rooms, and has a wide variety of toys. People like to do this one for children, and this one is often done schools as well. We have the History of the DAR Museum, our brand new program, which examines from a small case at the Smithsonian Museum collection has grown with the organization to encompass decorative arts, period rooms, and more. And this one, I'm really excited about. We also have another new program that debuted this past holiday season called Holiday Traditions in the Period Rooms, which shares the seasonally decorated period room exhibition, taking a look at the evolution of Christmas and other winter holidays which are celebrated in America. And we use the rooms on the second floor of Memorial Continental Hall. So we have Connecticut, Massachusetts, California, New Jersey, and all the rooms, and they either explore different holiday traditions or the evolution of how even Christmas was celebrated. So New York, for example, talks about Santa Claus and how he evolved, or Texas will talk about the Christmas tree and how that started as a tradition in the United States based on the German immigrants and how they incorporated that into their celebrations. So I think this one really has a lot of, it's very popular around the holidays. Making the American Home is our flagship program and really is the most comprehensive. It explores how domestic interiors reflected changes in the American society from the late 17th century all the way through the early 20th century using the DAR Museum period. And what I like best about this program, you'll see that there's a timeline at the bottom, and our correspondent docents have the flexibility to share different rooms. It is not a look at every single period room that we have. Most of our correspondent docents presentations range between 20 and 45 minutes. This one, if you were to do all of the slides, it would probably be several hours. So our correspondent docents pick and choose based on their audience and based on the interests and whether they want to do something regional, something based on all of the same time period, or based on all of the same types of rooms, whether it's parlors or bedrooms. So there's a lot of flexibility in this program. This program could be given in a myriad of different ways, and no two would be. Masterpiece Quilts at the DAR Museum is an overview of the masterpiece quilts in the museum's collection and the women who made them. And you'll see from this slide, we have some pretty good quality images now of quilts. That was not always the case. Quilts are very hard to photograph because they're so large and it's hard to get far away. So they do not get photographed as often as some of our other collection items. But we are working towards getting very high quality images of these to capture all of the detail that's involved in quilts. Myth or Truth is a discussion of common myths heard in museums and historic places based on the museum's 2006 exhibit, Myth or Truth, Stories We've Heard About Early America. And while the content in this one is very interesting, some of the challenges we do have on this particular one is that it is based on an exhibit from 2006. And so the images that we have are the images that we have, and we can't create them, recreate them, make them higher quality. So we just have to go with the object images themselves, and it won't be as connected going forward to the exhibition. Needlework Treasures at the DAR Museum is a sampling of the different types of schoolgirl needlework in the DAR Museum's collection. And Pleasing Truths, Power and Portraits in the American Home takes a look at the context and symbolism of early portraits to get a better understanding of the transmission of ideas and their impact on people over time, which is based on our most recent exhibition from 2023. And this one is one of our newer programs as well. And we specifically created both a short and a long version, depending on the organization's time limits. So some organizations only have time for a 15 to 20 minute presentation, and then other organizations are looking for a much larger, more in-depth program, 45 to minutes to an hour. And so we have created both of those versions to meet both of those needs. And that way you're not just rushing through your slides, but you're actually getting a specific program for that. We have the 7 Deadly Sins, which is a unique look at the collection through the themes of envy, gluttony, greed, lust, pride, sloth, and wrath, based on the museum's 2009 exhibit, 7 Deadly Sins. And this one is one of those guilty pleasures. I think people really enjoy attending this and hearing about this program because it's something that isn't usually talked about in a museum, but it can really explore some really fun topics, even though it sounds very serious. We have Something Old, Something New, an overview of wedding customs and traditions based on the museum's 2004 exhibit, Something Old, Something New, Inventing the American Wedding. And one thing that our correspondent docents do is they are able to add their own personal flair and flavor to these programs as they present them. So I know that there are correspondent docents out there that will, when presenting this program, either bring their own wedding dress or other wedding dresses of people that they know so that they can have those visuals on hand. And they encourage people to bring their own wedding dresses and share their own stories as well. So it's not just presenting information about the DAR Museum, but it's really a cool experience to be able to share and collaborate and tell stories and find that common ground, which is awesome. Then we have Songs of Christmas Past, which is exploring the evolution of Christmas traditions and the creation of popular holiday tunes based on the DAR Museum holiday exhibit, Songs of Christmas Past, which we had a number of years ago. So what's next? We have a lot that's coming up next. So my intern this fall is going to go back and look through the existing programs and update them with all new images. So as I was talking about the Myth or Truth, they're going to have to recreate some photos for that. And that will be their job, is to identify those objects and create new slides, because as we have the opportunity and as technology has improved, we want to enhance and increase the images that we are going to be able to present, because a quilt program is amazing and people are very passionate and very interested in those quilts. And they want to see as much detail as possible. So we want to provide as much quality and detail as possible. So my intern coming in the fall will be going back and updating those images, either from the collections database, because some of them still are based on those original slides. And so in addition to creating new programs, we're also going to have my correspondent docent committee has been working behind the scenes very hard to create some new programs. So in addition to the DAR Museum, history of the DAR Museum, which we just debuted, we have a program called Absolutely Odd, Ooky, and Obsolete, which is what the ram's head here is representing. And it is based on a previous exhibition that we had that really took a look at those things that are just weird. And so I think this one, kind of like the 7 Deadly Sins, is going to be a very popular choice because people like to see things that are less serious and kind of explore those ideas that aren't really talked about all the time. So we'll have a bone saw and a lancet and things made out of bone and hair. And not only will we be able to look at them, but also talk about why these were incorporated into people's everyday lives in the 18th and 19th centuries. We have, you'll see in the back behind Frank the Ram is another quilt. And we have a new program that is going to be called Quilts Through Time. And so we have the Masterpiece Quilts program, but this program is going to look at how quilts evolved and what that meant for society. So you can see a different patterned quilt. You can see whole cloth versus pieced cloth. And what is that telling us about society as a whole? Crazy quilts become popular become a part of popular culture right around the time that women's suffrage and the temperance movement is also taking shape, and how those quilts turn the orderly patterns on their head, just like the political situation at the same time. So this one is going to be a mix of history and quilts. It's going to use our beautiful quilts, but also to tell a larger story. We have a series that's going to be created about needleworks, and this one is going to look at needleworks specifically at specific times in each different time period. So it's really a cool format because, again, it's not going to be a 6-hour program, but if it was all given at once, it could be a 6-hour program. So it's going to break it into little tiny pieces so that an organization can host a series, or they can just be a one-off. If you just want to learn about needlework during the Federalist period, then we have a program just for you. But if you want to learn about needlework that's through the span of time that our collection covers, we can do that as well. We have one coming up in development on Wedgwood, and really based on a previous exhibition, but also diving into just the vast history of the Wedgwood company and the wares that they produced and the impacts that they have on decorative arts. And then finally, what we're also going to do is take a look at some of our past exhibitions that have not yet had in correspondent docent program made for it. So we had some exhibits immediately before and then during the pandemic that never got turned into correspondent docent programs. So we have Illuminating Design, the Declaration and Technology of E.F. Caldwell and Company from 1895 to 1959, which will look a lot at lighting, but also looking at the fixtures that are here in the national headquarters and the objects that were on for that exhibit as well. We have A Piece of Her Mind, which was the most previous sewing exhibit, but more focused on quilting. And then we have To Supply a Nation, the Origin and Impacts of Everyday Things, which took a look at how globally connected even the early colonies were, and how they relied on other places in the world for supplies, materials, mahogany, for example, or indigo, and how that was all interwoven and interconnected. So even looking at a piece that was made, for example, in Philadelphia, you can see those international impacts. And then last but not least, we are of course going to be making a program about our current exhibition, which is Sewn in America, Making Meaning Memory, which will explore the wider variety of sewn objects in our collections, from fine gowns to humble bed sheets, from large quilts to tiny samplers, and everything in between. So I think this one will be another in-demand programming that is created after the exhibition comes in. So that concludes my presentation. I'd like to open it up for some questions. I'm hoping that people will be interested in having a correspondent docent come and speak to them. You can either email me or the other option is to email correspondentdocent@nsdar.org. I'm going to leave this one up here, and then if you need that email, I can share it again. But I am really excited about this correspondent docent program, so I'm going to open up the Q&A and see what happens. And this is, let's see, the first question is, how do I become a correspondent docent? So the correspondent docent program is only open and available to Daughters of the American Revolution members. If you are a member, you can email this email. And there is applications on the member website. So you can go through the museum outreach pages and find that application. You can submit your application. I believe it's a $25 fee now, inflation since 1980, and submit that and you should be on a roll. The next question is, I thought this was to be female husbands. That one got rescheduled to November. So our speaker was not able to join us in May. So we will have that in December. Are the travel costs paid by the docent or the chapter? And I believe that is covered by the docent. So the docent is on a volunteer basis and they do cover those expenses personally. So they can also make that decision if they don't want to travel 2 hours. They're not required to do so. They just go where they feel comfortable. And I have, Gail says, do we have remote daughters on my committee? But yes, everyone on the committee is actually remote. I have Texas and Florida and New Jersey and everywhere. And we meet remotely to talk about the different programs, and everyone really researches and works on their own. So if you're interested in that, you can shoot me an email as kirspel@dar.org, and I will let you know about that. Carolyn, I'm sorry, has a comment, and she says, I'm a correspondent docent in training and I love it. The programs are fun and you get to meet all kinds of lovely people. So it's nice to hear from a correspondent docent who enjoys that as well. And Dee Brower says, how do I find out if we have a correspondent docent in our state? I would email correspondentdocent@nsdar.org and they will put you in touch. Let Beverly know what state you are interested in, and she can put you in touch with the state regent or the state chair for that organization, and they can get you that information. How many books about the DAR Museum and or exhibits are there? Mary, I would encourage you to visit our DAR Museum store. We do have a number of exhibit catalogs. The ones I know of, there's one for Sewn in America. There is one for An Agreeable Tyrant and Pleasing Truths, but there may be more. And I will put in a little plug for our museum store. Kara has some bundles available right now. If you go to the dar.org/museum, you can find our store. And if you're interested in the current catalog, you can also purchase bundles, which include past exhibition catalogs as well. So that's the best place to get individual exhibition catalog information. We do not, to my knowledge, have a current book about the DAR Museum. There have been historic books about Memorial Continental Hall and other initiatives that came out as special anniversaries. But you would need to check with the DAR archives on those. I don't believe any of them are currently in publication. Eva Jane wants to know, would a correspondent docent be able to provide a program via Zoom? I'm thinking of a local Massachusetts library that provides this kind of programs focusing on the local museums and history, but this kind of program may be of interest also. Yes, absolutely. So if you contact our correspondent docent at nsdar.org, they can put you in touch with the best person to coordinate that. But yes, our docents are able to present via Zoom, absolutely. Especially if the program is already being posted online. And that would be a great way for them to reach a different new audience, because again, it does not have to be for DAR audiences. Yes, they do present to chapters, but they would love to present to libraries and other organizations as well. Eli says, I was only able to catch the end of this program. May I go back and view this? Yes. So you'll have to give me a little bit of time to download it and then upload it back to YouTube, but it will be available on our YouTube page probably tomorrow. And you'll be able to watch the whole thing. And then El Kaizen Money Penny says you may also be able to check state speaker staff for correspondent docents in your state. Yes, so if you're part of the Daughters of the American Revolution organization, you can check with the State Speaker Bureau and get correspondent docents that way as well. But if you're not familiar with the organization, the best way to start is to just email correspondent docent at nsdar.org, and that will get you pointed in the right direction. Linda says thank you, and I say thank you to you too, Linda. But it looks like our questions have come to an end, and I appreciate all of your time that you took, and I hope that those of you that are involved in the Daughters of the American Revolution organization will consider becoming a correspondent docent. And I hope that all of you that are not involved with or members of the Daughters of the American Revolution, that you would consider inviting a correspondent docent to your organization to present, whether it's at your library or another at your Rotary Club or your Ladies Auxiliary Fire Hall, wherever it is. We hope that we can bring our museum to your hall. But I thank you all for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Take care.